Hello, everyone. That wonderful time of the month has come again. It's time for Record of Ragnarok, chapter 37. So, this chapter really surprised me in a few ways. And they're not necessarily bad ways. I think I like the ways it surprised me. So, let's get right into it. So, we're back to Shiva and Rudra's backstory. And we find out that while they started off their little journey to the top of the Kingdom of India, basically everyone was like, those fucking losers, they're not going to get anywhere. But then they went and they beat the entire Ashura tribe. So remember those assholes from the last chapter that were harassing the villagers? Yeah, so they went and beat up like the big boss guy and literally all of the members. So when they did that, the people started to change their minds about them. They took them more seriously and they started to respect them. And we just get sort of like a montage of them going around beating up various gods. And then we start to get the names of the various deities that they're beating up. So we have Bhutesha, the Lord of Evils, being defeated by Shiva. And Mahatapas, the Grand Ascetic, who's defeated by Rudra. And now, this is not the Orang Scan's high-quality translation. This is done by some random people, and I've already seen two different translations for this, so obviously this is some very confusing shit that they're describing. But it's saying that each of their nicknames changed every time they defeated someone. And what I think this is supposed to mean is that they, claim the name of this person. It's not that the other person doesn't have it anymore, but now this person also has that name, or they carry that name with them. I guess, something like that. So the two of them defeated, this is a long one, Murintinjaya, the one who conquered death. Seems like a very huge badass. I mean, he's gigantic. And basically, as they go around defeating more and more gods, they basically get a hype squad that follows them around and just cheers them on. So that was the bunch of gods that we saw in the crowd at the end of chapter 35. That was Shiva's hype squad. So Shiva defeated Trilochano, the three-eyed one, Sharbeha, the lion with wings, Hara, the one who steals, Gangadarya, the one who sustains the river Ganges, Naga Kundara, the one with the collared snake, and Mundarama, the one who wears skulls around their necks. Actually, I think they both defeated that one. Yeah. Then we have a page of Rudra with a compilation of him beating Trilochana, the one with the skull, Amarnath, the Lord of Immortality, Mahashivara, the Big King. Wow, that's I wonder where he got that name from. Acharanata, the one that doesn't move. Well, I thought that was very helpful. I think that's supposed to mean, the immovable. Ichana, the Dominators, and Mahakala, the one who dominates death and darkness. Wow, what an edgelord. Once again, I've brought this up several times, but one of the reasons I was so excited to see Shiva fight is because the Hindu pantheon is kind of crazy in comparison to a lot of the pantheons we're much more familiar with here in the West. And this chapter was basically a compilation of that. We have Rudra and Shiva pretty much doing a boss rush of the Hindu pantheon. And after they start defeating all of these lesser gods, they get over to these big boys. So they fight the fire god Agni and the god of water Varna. So now we're getting into the guys that they showed off at the start of last chapter. The big badasses. So Varna is doing some JoJo poses, and Agni is just there being huge and looking like something from not Hindu mythology. I don't know what he looks like he's from. He looks like he's probably from, Chinese mythology or even Japanese mythology with the way his fucking head looks. But they beat him, and then we move on to Indra. Now, boy, oh boy, after last chapter, has Indra assembled a little fucking fan club. He's gotta be the most popular new Hindu deity in the series. Probably because he's that badass with messy hair that smokes. I get big Yami vibes from him just because of like the messed up hair and smoking, and he doesn't seem to really give a shit. Um, he does have the hentai MC haircut, so my new headcanon is that Indra is the progenitor of the Facebook Indian man. You know the ones. So they beat Indra. We don't actually see them beating Indra, which is interesting. I wonder why they didn't show that. And then we move on to Brahma, the god of creation, and Vishnu, the god of preservation. I don't remember if I got that right last month. But they fight them. Vishnu has like this fucking Tokyo Ghoul mask, and I kind of really vibe with it. It's a weird-ass design for Vishnu, but I'm a fan of it. Even Brahma's, because Brahma's supposed to have like 3 faces and I think like 6 arms or something. But in here, he's just some dude with a bunch of prayer beads. But, like, it's a much more coherent design than traditional mythological Brahma, in my opinion. It's just easier to look at. So they beat the two of them, and that seems to be the hardest fight they had so far, because they're, like, on their ass, panting, trying to catch their breath, and they're all covered in sweat and blood. And we see that they have, in fact, beaten the two of them. And so the two of them beat 1,115 gods. I don't know why. That's always so fucking jarring to read. It's very hard to... I don't know. Looking at that the first time, it was very hard for my brain to comprehend what I was reading. So the two of them rise to the top. They reach the top of the Kingdom of India. Basically, everything I was doing up to this point was summary, because it was basically just a compilation. Or no, really, I was just explaining the compilation to you. It was not as, like, in the moment as this. It was basically just explaining everything that they went through. Now we are here in, like, actually them talking stuff. So, we get a beautiful shot of India. I assume this will look even better when the high-quality scans come out. This is some good shit. So Shiva is marveling at the view, but Rudra is looking really serious. And Shiva notices that he's, like, really serious right now. So Shiva just keeps going about this, talking about, like, how awesome their journey was, reaching the top. And he says that they're pretty much the best duo. And Rudra says, Shiva, we're done? Are you sure about that? And so he says that pretty much only one god can rule India. India can't be ruled by 2 guys. They just need one. So, there can't be 2 strongest gods in India, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. And Shiva is not really feeling it. So he is, like, on the brink of tears, and he is like, yeah, I guess there's no other way. So the two of them stand off, they fist bump, and then they start punching the shit out of each other. Then they go into another headbutt match. So this is the origin of headbutting the shit out of each other, as we've seen in the current round of Ragnarok. So they fucking headbutt each other so hard that the shockwave expands over all of India, which is stupid when we consider the power scaling between Shiva and Raiden so far, which I think makes it very clear that Shiva is not being very serious, or that just hasn't been portrayed very well so far. I don't know. But the two of them start beating the shit out of each other. And we see Agni, Varna, and Indra are watching it. They're, like, watching in the distance. I should make note. I realized that I recognized the names Agni and Rudra from somewhere. And then I remembered it was a boss from Devil May Cry 3. So that's where I have learned the names from. And that makes sense, since Rudra is the storm one and Agni is the fire one out of the pair. That's just neat. It's very nice when you learn more about mythology and then you can notice the references to it in other media. That's one of the benefits of this, I guess. So those two have a super awesome fight. Sounds echo throughout all of India, and their sweat became a heavy rain, which is probably the most mythological thing that's happened in this entire series. Like, the mythological shit. Two guys sweating and that becoming a rainstorm is like the mythological stuff. We haven't gotten too much of that so far in this series. It's mostly just been pretty grounded stuff. Now we're getting into some of the like weird shit that can only happen in mythology. So they keep fighting, and although they're having a good time, they're like, "Fuck, this sucks," because they're beating the shit out of their best friend, respectively. So we go and we see like everyone's climbing up the mountain to see what's going on. And the fight has clearly been going on for a very long time. They're both battered and bruised and like breathing really hard. And Shiva knocks Rudra to the ground. And in his mind, he starts begging Rudra to not get up. But Rudra keeps getting up, and Shiva has to keep pummeling him. And he's basically begging him to give up because he doesn't want to kill Rudra. Because that's where it's going at this rate. They're going to fight to the death. And whoever loses is going to die. And with the way it's going right now, Rudra is weaker than Shiva, and he is refusing to admit this fact, essentially. So he is going to kill himself, throwing himself at his friend, until the fight is over. And we see Rudra's internal dialogue, thinking about his dream, and how he wants to stand at the top of the kingdom of India. And that, well, Shiva's an interesting guy. I'm Rudra, the god of storms, which is basically him saying, hey, this is like my dream. I'm going to fulfill this, not you. So Shiva is about to give up, and then Rudra gives up first. So he's literally in the middle of saying, I lost, and Rudra just says, I give up. I accept defeat. So Shiva is shocked by this, and Rudra basically gives him like this motivational speech and says something along the lines of making your enemy feel sorry is something worse than death. I've seen multiple different translations of it. Like this translation, it seems like this chapter has been the most confusing to translate out of all of them. Probably because of, like, all of the Hindu shit that no one understands, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So, in a fight to the death, having your opponent go easy on you is even more painful than dying. Okay. That's the translation I trust much more from Demi. So that's basically what Rudra is saying. Forcing your enemy to go easy on you is something worse than death. So that's the lesson that Rudra wants to give to Shiva. And Shiva starts crying because he basically feels like he stole Rudra's dream from him. And Rudra tells him not to cry since you're above all of us. So basically, you deserve this. So he asks Shiva if he'll rule India, and he's like crying, but says there's no other way. So they fist bump, and Rudra transfers his tattoos to Shiva. And we don't get an explanation as to what these tattoos mean. Like, we don't see Rudra use them. I assume this is essentially Rudra giving Shiva his power, which is leading me to believe, we saw with like in the last chapter, where Shiva seemed to be calling him upon more of the power of the gods. He seemed to get stronger, so I assume this is Rudra giving Shiva his power, but also I think we had something along the lines of every time they defeated a god, they like took part of their power, which is why they became so strong, and they were basically unrivaled as the gods at the top of India. I'm pretty sure that would explain their rise to power, pretty much. And it would also explain how the higher level Indian gods are basically... Or no, I should probably describe it in the opposite way. So the lower level Indian gods are basically all aspects of the gods above them, as far as I understand. Once again, I'm not like an expert in Hindu mythology, but from what I understand, every god is essentially an aspect of a god on a level above them. So with Shiva as the supreme deity of the Hindu pantheon in this series, pretty much all of the lesser gods are various aspects of Shiva, I guess. So I think that may be like their explanation for it, and that's how he's all the gods at the same time, pretty much. So Rudra gives Shiva his power. He wishes him good luck and then just dips. He disappears from the land of India. And as a result, Shiva becomes pretty much the king of the gods of India. So the first way that this chapter surprised me is that Rudra didn't die. I super expected Rudra to die because we hadn't seen him yet. And also, I sort of expected him to fuse with Shiva because they're supposed to be like the same god, basically. But I don't really have a problem with this because, I mean, like, it still sort of works with what I expected would happen, which would be Shiva sort of falling into the position of the top god of India, which was something he never really was looking for. So, yeah, I guess I was wrong. I know there were other people that thought they would fight each other, and that's what we did get. I had just assumed it would be much more tragic than this. But this is still interesting. So, Shiva has his tattoos now. That's how he got Rudra's tattoos. And if you look, it's kind of hard because these scans that we got from Mangahat are a little blurry. He's got those dots under his eyes that go on the sides of each of his secondary eyes. So he's got him. That's how we got him. And now, for some reason, these guys included some colored pages, some fan-colored pages, which I don't have a problem with. I've noticed that recently a lot of people are including colorings in their releases. So we go back to the present, where Shiva and Radan are clashing with their headbutts. And Shiva knocks Radan back. And he tells him that he carries the hopes of all 1116 gods, and that he won't lose to Radan or anyone. And Shiva's laughing and thinking to himself, if I lose here, Rudra, you wouldn't forgive me. So we zoom in on the crowd, and we see a person here watching the fight. And then Brahma shows up, and he said he knew this guy would come, but he asks him why he's hiding. And we see it's Rudra, and Rudra has fucking drip now. He's wearing like this fucking... when I saw it, I thought it was like a snakeskin pattern design. And he's got a scar on his face from when he fought Shiva. So we've got punished Venom Rudra. And then we see all of the other big important guys that Shiva and Rudra beat up on their quest. I forgot to mention earlier, but Indra is supposed to be the king of the gods in Hindu mythology, which is not the top of the pantheon position. I know, that's kind of funny considering with things like Greek and Norse mythology, king of the gods is typically derivative of the top god. But I guess in the case of Indra, it pretty much means that he's managing all of the god business, while Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva are busy managing, like, nature of the universe shit, you know, with creation, preservation, and destruction. So that's just a little interesting mythology note there. So they all sort of have, like, a reminiscing moment talking with each other. It's like all the old dudes that meet up in the bar after they went to war in Korea. And they're just sort of talking about Shiva and having a good laugh. So Indra lights up his cigarette with a bolt of lightning and suggests that they see how the fight ends from up here. So they're looking down, and in his mind, Rudra is cheering on Shiva and basically telling him, like, show me what you learned. So the very last page of the chapter is the reveal that the name of the 1116th god that Shiva fights for is the god of storms, Rudra. So it would seem that Shiva has decided to carry on the will of all of the people that they beat. I know there are multiple translations. The initial translation I saw was that essentially the 1116th name of Shiva is the god of storms, Rudra, which would be like the name-claiming thing, I guess, which could still work, in that he takes on their names, and then as a result, in his actions, he carries on their will, which would work. And Shiva says, how about we dance all night? I've seen multiple translations of this as well. I think the first one I saw was him saying, let's dance, like just that. And I don't know why, but I got so fucking hyped up from seeing that. So that's the end of the chapter. Where do we go from here? I think we are going to, obviously, at the start of the next chapter, we're going to see Shiva enter his serious mode. Finally, fuck, I know, it only took 2 months after getting his arm crushed. But I feel like there are 2 things that I think it could be. Or he could do both of them at the same time, I guess. So the first one is the Dance of Destruction. That's the one I've been saying for a while, especially since his whole thing was going to be dancing. He wanted to become the king of dance before he went along with Rudra. And the second thing is he says, how about we dance all night? So, like, that he's basically name-dropping it there. The second thing is that he's going to use the power of the 1116 gods. So we saw last month that he already seemed to be calling upon their power to strengthen his blows. And I think he's going to, like, release all of it. So we may get to see whatever Rudra's power is with these tattoos, or maybe it's just the tattoos don't actually embody his strength, it's just like a representation of it, to show that he has now been given the strength of Rudra. And we never saw either of them use, like, any magic abilities, so, like, maybe he just made him stronger or something, I don't know. But I feel like it may be something like that. I have seen, like, some, I think, sculptures or statues of Shiva, like, summoning the power of all the gods. So it could be something like that as well. It could be either of those things. Now, I have to talk about a problem that's been happening with this fight, and it's that the pacing has been kind of fucked by the Buddha side story thing going on. So the stuff going on with Buddha was very interesting, and it added a lot of depth to the plot. The problem is that it happened right when the fight was basically starting. So, as a result, not very much has actually happened in the fight, and it's been going on for a while. Like, the fight feels longer than it really is. There really hasn't been that much that's happened in it. I mentioned this in the Discord server yesterday. I'll go find what I said, and I'll put it up on the screen. But basically, the Buddha plotline pretty much made the fight seem a lot longer than it is. So, I guess this will because we have a double chapter next month, and that'll probably be the same amount of content as this chapter, unless they go fucking nuts and give us, like, 80 pages, which is possible, I guess. And then we have, like, another short chapter after that, but I don't know if they would end the fight on a short chapter, so this could go on for, like, another 2 to 3 months. So, we'll just have to see what happens with that. We still haven't gotten, like, a full Raiden backstory. We still need to see why Raiden didn't become Yokozuna. We haven't really had an opportunity to get emotionally invested in Raiden. Like, Shiva has gotten his now emotional backstory. It's very easy to become invested in him. I'm rooting for Shiva. I'd say he actually probably has one of the better backstories in the series. Like, not as good as Kojiro's. I feel like Rudra's speech to Shiva is very similar to that speech Kojiro got from his teacher about, you know, if you lose your sword, use your fists. If you lose your fists, use your teeth. Struggle to the very end. I think it's sort of akin to that, especially the framing of the shot. But we still need to get something like that for Raiden, because while I get why, Raiden isn't very interesting in the fight, because he takes it so seriously. When it comes to a theme for this fight, let's look at it. So, Raiden was born in a body that was basically a prison for him, and he was never able to meet his true potential. Whereas Shiva accidentally met his true potential, and as a result was thrown into a position he never wanted to be in. I still think the theme of this fight may have something to do with liberation, but Shiva doesn't really seem to be a prisoner of his role as I thought he may have been. It's more like he grew up and accepted responsibility from becoming the top god of India. So, I guess we'll have to see how the theme develops. We're going to find out next month, I assume, with that double chapter. We might get Raiden's backstory, or they may wait until the month after for that. Who really knows? But yeah, that's really all I have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I do Record of Ragnarok reviews every month. If you enjoy other series such as Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, Kengan Omega, and Bleach, I do videos on those series as well. So if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. If you enjoy discussing Record of Ragnarok with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to it on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.